Welcome everybody. We are discussing the chapter Plant Kingdom, chapter 3, class 11th biology. So we have already discussed up to gymnosperms. The gymnosperms are the non-flowering but seed-bearing plants. Today we'll discuss the angiosperms, which are flower-bearing as well as seed-bearing plants, and their seeds are enclosed by a fruit wall. So let us start the discussion. So before discussion, as I have shown you that in my previous sessions that the angiosperms are further divided into monocotyledon and dicotyledon. So what are these monocotyledons and dicotyledons? Here in the picture you can see that the upper row that shows the monocot plants, the characteristics, some of the characteristics are given here. So the basic difference between monocot and dicot, and why they are called monocot and dicots, because in the monocot plant there is only one cotyledon. So let me tell you what is cotyledon. Cotyledon is the embryonic leaf. So when the zygote develops into embryo, and when the embryo develops into a plantlet, then the leaf-like structures are developed, which provides nourishment to the developing embryo. Okay, or during the process of embryogenesis and the plant growth, these cotyledons or the embryonic leaves provide nourishment to the plantlet. So if in the plant growth only one cotyledon is present or one embryonic leaf is present, then that plant is called monocot plant or monocotyledon plant. Similarly, your if the during the course of growth or the when the embryo is developing into a plantlet, the embryo has two embryonic leaves. Then that is called, that means two cotyledons are present. Then that plant is called dicotyledons or dicot plants. Now, what are the other differences, morphological differences? Here, if you look into the structure of the leaves are generally vertically present on the stem, and the stem is usually unbranched. But here you can see the leaf is it is tangentially present. That means they are usually present at right angle to the stem in case of dicot. So in monocot the leaves are vertically present, but in dicot they are tangentially present. Then if you see the veins, the arrangement of the veins are arranged parallelly in case of monocot. But in case of dicot, the veins are reticulate. That means they are forming a network like structure. Okay. Now next come to the anatomy. What is the difference in their anatomy? That is, you might have studied in class 9th the vascular tissue, that is xylem and phloem. They are present in a bundle that is called vascular bundle. So in monocot plant, in the stem, the vascular bundles are scattered. They are scattered. There is no specific arrangement. But in dicot plant, the vascular bundles are always arranged in a ring. So we'll discuss about this arrangement of vascular bundle and more differences in the vascular bundles of monocot and dicot in the anatomy chapter. Now looking to the root, what is the difference in the root of the dicot and monocot? In monocot plants, the roots are fibrous. The fiber-like roots are present. From the base of the stem, a bunch of fiber-like roots are developed. So this is called fibrous root. But in case of dicot plant, you will see a tap root. That means a slender root is there which is tapering towards the end, and from this main root the lateral roots, the secondary roots, and the lateral roots, root hairs are developed. So such type of root is called tap root. Then coming to the flower, the floral parts are generally multiples of 3 in case of monocots. They are called trimerous flowers. So the floral parts means corolla, calyx, androecium and gynoecium. They are always in the multiple of 3. That's why they are called trimerous flower. So we'll discuss in details in morphology chapter. But in case of dicot plant, the floral parts are usually in multiple of 4 or 5. Okay. And other than these, some other differences are also there in the flowers that we'll discuss in our morphology of angiosperm chapter. Okay. So here more clearly you can understand what is cotyledon, what is monocotyledon and what is dicotyledon. Here this is the longitudinal section of a grain. Okay. So here you can see that when it is containing a embryo, that embryo is developing into a plantlet. So this embryo is present inside a seed. So you can consider this is a seed. Here is the embryo. This portion is the embryo and the whole structure is the seed, and we call it as grain in monocot. So from this embryo, the you can take it is the whole structure of the seed, and this is the seed coat, and piercing the seed coat, the plantlet is emerged out. Okay. So here while it is developing, you can see that the structure is formed, and this structure has 2 parts. The upper part is called hypocotyle, lower part is called the epicotyle, which develops into radicle, and this hypocotyle develops into the shoot. Okay. Now here you can see that while the plant is growing, it has only one cotyledon. This is the embryonic leaf. It is a leaf-like structure which provides nourishment to the developing embryo. So since here only one cotyledon is present, so it is called monocotyledon. So then it grows into a plant. This is the first leaf. Okay. So this is first leaf. So first leaf is only one. Only one first leaf is there. So it is called embryonic leaf, and that's why it is monocotyledon. But here you can see if you take the section, first of all you will see the 2 cotyledons are there. 2 embryonic leaves are there. That's why they are dicotyledon, and that's why when the plant grows from out of this, then 2 leaves are formed. So here you can see these are the cotyledon. Okay. So on either side of the stem, the young stem, 2 cotyledons are there. So that's why they are dicotyledon. So I hope the why monocotyledon and why the plants are dicotyledon, that is very much clear to you. Then before discussing the life cycle of the angiosperm or the reproduction in angiosperm, let us first discuss the structure of a flower. So a flower, as you know, the angiosperms are flower bearing plants. So the flower, a mature flower, angiospermic flower, has 4 holes. So what are the holes? Holes means when the structures are arranged in a circle, then that is called hole. So the first or outermost hole is the calyx, which is green in color usually. Then inner to the calyx, the corolla, which is usually colorful, but in some cases it is colorless also, or you can say white in color, that is called corolla, and its individual structures are called petals, and the individual structure of calyx are called sepals. Then these two parts are the vegetative part of a flower, the calyx and corolla. But the two other parts which are most important part of the flower, that is the female reproductive part and the male reproductive part. The male reproductive part is called androecium, whose individual members are called stamens. So here the structure of stamen is highlighted. So the stamens together are called androecium, and the female reproductive structure is the gynoecium, and the gynoecium is located centrally in a flower. The gynoecium is the female reproductive part, and its individual members are called pistils. So the group of pistil constitute a at gynoecium. So the gynoecium is the female reproductive structure which is composed of the pistils, which is also called carpels. Now we will discuss in details about the male and female reproductive structure. So see here, the male reproductive structure or the stamen is highlighted. So you can see the stamen. A stamen has three structures, three different parts, that is the stalk, with the help of which it is attached to the thalamus. Thalamus is the basal swollen part of the flower, that is called filament. With the help of filament, the stamen is attached to the base of the flower or the thalamus. Then there is a anther which is bilobed, okay, and inside the anther the microsporangium are there, okay. So there is a connective region, or the region of the filament at which the anther is attached is called connective. So it has three parts: filament, connective and anther. So this is very important. And the anther contains the microsporangium, which produces the microspore, and the microspore develops into the pollen grain. Now come to the female reproductive part, that is the gynoecium. So this is the structure, gynoecium structure or the pistil, which is highlighted here. If we take the longitudinal section of this pistil, we'll see that inside the pistil the megasporangium, that is called ovules, are present. Okay, the ovules are the female gametophyte, whereas the microsporangium which develops into the pollen grain are the male gametophyte. Okay, so here you can see the structure, compare the structure of ovule and anther. So ovule, as I have said, that this is the female gametophyte. Okay, so this ovule, this is the structure of a typical angiospermic ovule, which has covering, that is called integument, and here at the center a structure is present, that is called embryo sac, and inside the embryo sac what are present? There are three antipodal cells towards the base of the ovule, that is called antipodal cells, okay. But towards the micropylar end, or the end towards which an opening is present, the opening is called micropyle. Towards that end, three cells are present, out of which the two lateral synergid and one central egg cell. And at the center of the embryo sac, a secondary nucleus is present. So how many nucleus are there altogether inside the ovule? Inside the ovule, 8 nucleus are present. Okay, so 3 antipodal, 2 synergid, 1 egg cell and 1 secondary nucleus, which is made up of 2 polar nuclei. So altogether there are 8 nuclei present inside the embryo sac. So this is the because it contains the egg, that is the female gamete, so it is called female gametophyte. Now come to the structure of the anther, which is the male reproductive, most important part of the male reproductive system, organ. So if we take the section of an angiospermic anther, we'll see that the anther's structure is like this. It is bilobed. You can see the structure like this. Okay. It is bilobed, and in each lobe there are two like chambers are there, and these are called sporangium. Okay. And inside the sporangiums, the cells are present, and these cells upon maturity becomes the microspore mother cell, and the, or we can say the pollen mother cell. So here you can see the pollen mother cell is there. Pollen mother cells are there. Now each pollen mother cell undergoes meiosis. So this is one pollen mother cell which undergoes meiosis, and after meiosis it produces four cells, and that four cell is called pollen tetrad or microspore tetrad. Now each microspore of this one give rise to a pollen grain. So a single pollen mother cell gives rise to four pollen grains, and the pollen grains are the male gametophyte, which contains the male gamete, which produces the male gamete. Okay. Now, how the pollen and pistil interaction takes place. So here what happens, so after the maturation of the anther, the pollen grains are released, that is called dehiscence of the anther. When the anther bursts, the pollen grains are released out of the anther, and they are transferred to the female reproductive part, that is the pistil. Okay, and the process of this transfer is called pollination, and all these processes are there in class 12th in details. So very briefly I am explaining it here. So the pollen grains falls on the stigma. So the that is the, a pistil has three parts. The uppermost terminal part is the stigma, which is the landing platform for the pollen grain, where the pollen grain falls. Then a tubular structure, that is style, and at the base the ovary is present, and in the ovary the ovules are present. I have already shown you the structure of ovule. So now when the pollen grain falls on it, what happens? Let us see. Now here you can see the pollen grain has fallen. Now the pollen grain germinates. Okay, it forms a pollen tube. Gradually this pollen tube increases in size, but you can see that here two pollen grains have developed the pollen tube, but only one pollen tube, which is formed fast and grows faster, will reach up to the ovule. Okay, so this is how the pollen grain germination takes place. Now what is the advantage of formation of the pollen tube? As you know that I have said you that pollen grains are the male gametophyte. Each pollen grain contains two male gametes. So when this tube reaches the ovule, okay, here you can see the pollen tube has been reached up to the ovule, and it enters through the micropyle. And towards the micropyle, the egg is present, or the female gamete is present. So the pollen grain releases its male gamete through the pollen tube, and the pollen tube carries the male gamete to the female gamete. So here another more clear picture is there. Here you can see this is how the germination has been taken place, and here are the uh, uh, at the tip of this pollen grain, the two male gametes are formed by the division of the generative cell. The generative cell divides to form two male gametes, and when it reaches the ovule, here you can see in this diagram, the pollen tube has reached the ovule, and in the ovule what happens? Here are the two sperm cell or the male gamete. Now it releases the two male gamete here, and one of the male gamete fuses with the egg, and it forms a zygote. Then what happens to the other male gamete? The other male gamete is also released and that fuses with the secondary nucleus. Okay, that fuses with the secondary nucleus to form endosperm nucleus. So here the fusion takes place twice. So it is called double fertilization. Okay, and since here in when the other male gamete is fusing with the secondary nucleus, it is a triple fusion. Triple fusion means three nuclei are fused. So the two polar nuclei which together constitute the secondary nucleus and the male gamete. So all together there are three nuclei are fused. So it is called triple fusion. But this fusion process takes place twice, so it is called double fertilization. So double fertilization and triple fusion is the typical feature of angiosperm. So here you can see double fertilization and triple fusion. So here the two male gametes are there. Now it grows and reaches up to the ovule, and in the ovule it is releasing the two male gametes, and here the secondary nucleus which is composed of two polar nuclei. So with these two polar nuclei one of the male gamete will fuse. So it is a triple fusion. Now here two synergid and one egg cell is there, but the male gamete, one of the male gamete will fuse with the egg cell only. So the male gamete that fuses with the egg cell forms the zygote. So here you can see the zygote. But the male gamete that fuses with the two polar nuclei or the secondary nucleus is called the endosperm nucleus. Okay. So this process is, the whole process is called double fertilization and triple fusion. Now here in more details, we'll study the life cycle of angiosperm. So if you have understood the structure of a male and female reproductive system and how the gametes are produced and pollen pistil interaction, then the life cycle of angiosperm will be very much clear to you. So this is the reproductive part of a angiosperm, that is flower. So the flower has two parts. The flower may be male flower or female flower, but here I am showing you a bisexual flower which can produce both male gamete and female gamete. So this flower, here the female reproductive organ is highlighted and here the male reproductive organ is highlighted. Okay. So the anther produces the microspore mother cell. The microspore mother cells are produced inside the microsporangium. Then each microspore mother cell develops into four microspore, that is called microspore tetrad, and each microspore develops into a pollen grain. Okay, and in the pollen grain there are two nucleus. One is generative nucleus, which is small one, and other one is vegetative nucleus. So actually the bigger structure is the vegetative cell, inside which the generative cell is floating. So vegetative cell provides nourishment to the generative cell. The generative cell divides to form two male gametes. So here you can see the two male gametes are there. So let us see the female reproductive structure. The female reproductive structure, the stigma is there, style and ovary. And here in the ovary, the ovule is present. So when the ovule is developing, first of all, the cells present inside it, one of the cell becomes bigger, and that cell is called megaspore mother cell, and the megaspore mother cell develops into the embryo sac. And in the embryo sac, as I have told you, there are 8 nuclei, 3 antipodal, two synergid, one egg cell and two polar nuclei. So now when the pollen grain falls and reaches up to the pollen tube reaches up to the embryo sac, the two male gametes are released, then the zygote is formed. The zygote gets nourishment from the endosperm that is lying beneath the zygote. Then the zygote develops into embryo. Then the embryo develops into another plant. So this is the life cycle of angiosperm. Like other like bryophytes and pteridophytes and gymnosperm, the life cycle of angiosperm also includes two phases, that is sporophytic phase or sporophytic generation, which is diploid, the main plant body that is diploid, and the gametophytic phase, which is haploid, which produces the gamete. So the gametophytic phase reproduces as sexually by producing the gamete and develops into the sporophyte. The sporophyte undergoes asexual reproduction, or you can say the simple division method, and produces the gametophytes. Okay, so since the two phases or two generations are alternating with each other, they are called alternation of generation. So the life cycle of angiosperm also shows alternation of generation. So let us see some of the differences between the gymnosperm and angiosperm. The gymnosperms are mostly trees. The angiosperms are herbs, shrubs or trees. And in gymnosperm, the xylem vessels, as you know, the xylem has four elements. So out of these four elements, the element vessel is absent in gymnosperm, but in angiosperm the vessel is present. So all the four elements are present, you can say. Then in the phloem, also there are four elements. Out of the four elements, the companion cells are absent in case of gymnosperm, but in angiosperm all the four elements are present. And in gymnosperm, the cone is present. The cone-like structure, which is called strobili, is present, but here the cone is absent. Rather, a flower is present. So here flower is absent, here flower is present. Strobili are unisexual. As I have shown you, the in gymnosperm, that is the male strobili and female strobili are there. But here the flowers may be bisexual or unisexual. Okay. Then ovule is naked. That means they are not enclosed by the fruit wall. But here the ovules are covered inside the ovary. The ovary develops into the fruit. Here ovary is absent, here ovary is present, and here style and stigma are absent. Only the ovule is present. Here style and stigma are present. Here archegonia present, but here archegonia is not present. Rather, embryo sac is present. Here double fertilization is not there, but here double fertilization takes place. And triple fusion also takes place in case of angiosperm, which is absent in case of gymnosperm. In gymnosperm also endosperm is formed, but that endosperm is haploid. But in case of angiosperm, the endosperm is triploid because it is formed by the fusion of the two polar nuclei and one male gamete. Now, we'll discuss different types of life cycle. There are three types of life cycles, that is haplontic life cycle, diplontic life cycle and haplodiplontic life cycle. So let us discuss these life cycles one by one. Let us first discuss the haplontic life cycle. So as you can see in the picture, here you can see in the picture some portion is blue colored, and whereas some portion, a larger portion is pink colored. So here in the life cycle of this particular organism, you can see the diploid phase or the gametophytic phase where the zygote is formed is short-lived. Okay, but the predominant phase is haploid. The predominant phase is haploid. Okay, so this type of life cycle, the life cycle where the diploid phase is um, less lived and the haploid phase is long-lived or predominant, such life cycle is called haplontic life cycle because the haploid phase is predominant. Okay, so here the sporophytic phase is represented only by one-celled zygote. So this only represents the sporophyte. Okay, but when the sporophyte undergoes meiosis, it produces spores, and then the spore gives rise to the gametophyte. Okay, now this gametophyte is dominant, which is photosynthetic, and it is having a free living life, and this kind of life cycle is called haplontic, which is seen in algae like Volvox, Pyrogyra, and some species of Chlamydomonas. Then the next type of life cycle is diplontic life cycle. So here in the picture you can see that the diploid phase, that is the sporophytic phase, is predominant, whereas the haploid phase, that is gametophytic phase, is less lived, and this sporophytic phase is dominant, photosynthetic, and independent phase. It is not dependent on the gametophytic phase. But the gametophytic phase is represented by only few haploid gametes. Okay, here you can see the gametes are produced. So only by some in the form of some gametes. So here you can see the sporophytic phase is long lived or dominant. That's why this type of life cycle is called diplontic life cycle. So this is also seen in some algae like fucus, and it is also present seen in seed bearing gymnosperm and angiosperms. Very important, children. You have to remember in which group of plant which type of life cycle is seen. In algae, both diplontic and haplontic life cycles are seen, but predominantly, the algal life cycle shows haplontic life cycle. But diplontic life cycle is also shown by some of the algae. But the diplontic life cycle is the characteristic feature of gymnosperm and angiosperm. Okay. Now, let us discuss the third type of life cycle, that is haplodiplontic life cycle. So, in case of bryophytes and pteridophytes, they exhibit an intermediate condition that is called haplodiplontic. That means both the phases are multicellular and both the phases are equally dominant. Okay, they are equally dominant, and here you can see in the life cycle almost like you can say that in bryophyte the gametophyte is long lived, and that is the main plant, rather you can say. But in case of pteridophyte, the sporophyte is the main plant. But if you study the life cycle, then both the phases of the life cycle are long lived, or you can say almost equal, equally dominant. But if we observe very keenly, then the dominant phase also differs, but their life, or you can say the life of the sporophytic phase and the haplophyte, that is gametophytic phase, are almost same. So this is the characteristic feature of bryophytes and pteridophytes. Okay. So with this, our third chapter, that is the plant kingdom, is completed, and I hope all the concepts of these chapters are very much clear to you. And please, if you have not subscribed my channel, please subscribe and like my video if you understand the concept, and please give a comment so that it will be a capsule of motivation for me. Thank you for watching my video till end.